I did have, by the way, guys, welcome to Coin Op Conversation. I'm here with my co-host in charge, Neo Xian Wu. What's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
And back with us again for a week in a row. I can't say like 2 weeks in a row. It's just a week in a row. We got Gamer
Yo, how's everybody doing?
and Vegeta, aka Marvin. What's up, man? Notice how I said it.
Stop.
Said it in reverse, right? I did get some people saying they actually went to YouTube and watched it. Thanks, guys. That's actually crazy, right? Hit me up on Twitter. But they said that Gamer Direct was really low. So
I
we're gonna,
was?
so we're gonna turn you up.
He was, because I watched back. And,
Yeah. So I'm actually turning everybody up. So chat, if you're watching this live and it's loud, just turn it down a little bit. But I'm gonna turn everybody up a little bit. And then I'm just going to turn my headphones down so that way it's not so loud in my ear. But, you know, it is what it is. To the early gang, what's that? Neo Phoenix. What's up, man? How you doing? I know this discussion.
Here, man.
That's why we just call him John. But
Not me.
Phoenix, if you would like to tell your pops, I'm sure is home right now that we're doing this discussion. If he wants to get in on this Discord call, he is more than welcome. I'm sure my fellow, I don't even know, whatever, we're friends, wouldn't mind an extra on here.
since we're talking about Mortal Kombat, maybe.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 2, which is when I really met him. So crazy, right? That I believe Mortal Kombat 2 came out in 1993. So if it came out in 1993, I know I met Archon a little bit before MK2, but we didn't actually like really start talking until like MK2 era. So 1993 to now, that's how long I've officially known Archon. That's just crazy. That's just crazy, guys. All right, so if you guys are just tuning in, what we're going to talk about is the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade era. But first, there are certain people in this call that may not have started with Mortal Kombat 2. So we're going to ask them what they started with in their first impressions of Mortal Kombat as a whole, and then we're going to dial it back a bit. So I will actually start with John, because I actually don't know if you even played Mortal Kombat at all. So if you did, what was your first impressions of it, and which game was it?
Actually started with Mortal Kombat 1 at
Okay.
Cyberstation in Grimbury. I mean, I was never really good at the game. I just played it, but like it was one of those times where I just went to the arcade and just wanted to play games and saw it, and I was like, I was still used to playing Street Fighter at like the barber shop or something like that.
Mhm.
So once I saw that, I was like, well, what's this game? And I saw Johnny Cage on the side, and I was like this is like a kung fu movie game or something. And I mean, then you see the sprites, and it's like, yo, it's like real people fighting in the game, and like that was kind of the allure, was like, yo, they're like real people. And then like there was blood, and it's like it was just something completely different from what you were used to in fighting games.
Mm-hmm. Gamer, what was yours?
I mean, I was around when Mortal Kombat 1 hit the arcade,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't. I jumped on it casually. I really wasn't. It wasn't my thing at the time. But 2 was when I really got into the series, and I think I told it in the last podcast, but in case people missed it, my introduction of it was I just happened to go Chesapeake Square Mall one day, and all you heard as soon as you walked in, you just heard somebody getting choked out. Or I think somebody was doing the Scorpion. It was actually they were doing Sub-Zero's finish, because you heard like the whole ripping the head
Oh,
off, and that's I was the loudest game at the time in there. So I walked in, I was like, "What is this?" And everybody was crowded around the machine. I think it had just been there maybe a day or two or something,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my introduction to it. And I was watching your boy Sandro, and they're tearing everybody up. He was on the machine just taking everybody's money. So, but yeah, that was my introduction to that. To the Mortal Kombat
What did you
series.
think of Mortal Kombat? Like, did you think it was
I
cool?
wasn't a big fan of 1. It was a novelty thing. It was cool, but I think I was going more into Street Fighter at that time. But 2 really got me. I liked 2. 2 was a big upgrade from 1. And I really liked how everybody played in that one. I liked the atmosphere, like the stages. the voices, like I really like 2 a lot. Like 2 was the most. If there's one I put the most time in, it was 2.
Okay. Marvin, what was your first Mortal Kombat?
I want to. It's probably MK. It's MK1 because it was. I'm trying to get the timeline because it was kind of blurry, like how I got into it because it was. I think it was a combination of seeing the the commercial and then there's a dude on my school bus that brought in the strategy guide for the first game. I was looking through it, and it's like I can't remember when I became aware of it. I just remember those like key moments, and then I used to go to his house and we played it on Super NES. I want to say that was in '92-ish. It was right before MK2 came out. And then MK2, the first time I saw it is my mom used to take us shopping at the PX because we were living in New Hampshire at the time, and then they had a small little like room that had like 3 or 4 arcade games, and MK2 was one of them. So that's how I got exposed to MK2, and those 2 were kind of the thing I messed around with or played or looked at when I was a kid. I didn't own it because my mom was like, "Oh my god, violence kind of," but she wasn't really a stickler about it because me and my brother have been watching like horror movies and sci-fi since we were kids, but it was a taboo thing. It was just kind of fascinating because it was different and pretty violent.
Violent it was. So my introduction to Mortal Kombat is bittersweet. For obviously the background is Mortal Kombat 2. That's the game that I am synonymous with in terms of what got me started in real fighting game fame, and what really got me traveling was Mortal Kombat. It wasn't Street Fighter. It was Mortal Kombat 2. But we talked about it last episode, talking about fun and games, right? The arcade, and the way that arcade was set up. You had your attraction games in the front, which was, your racing games, your Dance Dance Revolutions, your claw games, whatever you could actually get someone in to spend money quick on. But the games right behind that in the middle of this hallway was usually the game that people were the return customers, usually fighting games. You needed a lot of room for people to crowd around, and it was pretty much front and center, even though it was behind the initial attraction games. Street Fighter 2, I believe at that time, Hyper Fighting was the game that was out. I don't know if it was Hyper Fighting or just Championship Edition when Mortal Kombat 1 went live. I'm trying to remember. I can't. We're talking a long time ago. I'd have to look it up. But
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So while he looks that up, that was the game that was front and center. That was the game that I really started to get my competitive juices going in, and I wanted to be really good at. And what ended up happening was one day I walked in, and that game was no longer front and center. Now it's Mortal Kombat 1. And I looked at this game with the realistic graphics. I was not happy with the realistic graphics. And I tried to play it. And so here's the thing. When I went to play it, Mortal Kombat 1 came out, 92, 91, 92?
Yeah.
91.
So... No, 92.
92. So depending on when that year, I was 10. And my hand, guys, I don't have small hands, but they were small. And the way the layout was, I don't have my joystick on me, but the way the layout is, you
spaced out so far.
They were spaced out really far, and the block button was right in the middle. And for playing the game, yeah, I'll just pretend it doesn't really matter. But if this was the joystick and I couldn't spread my hand out, right, I had to manually push each button with one finger. And while that's fine for doing moves in Mortal Kombat, they didn't have complex maneuvers. Usually it was forward and a button, or back and a button. I think the only buttons that used 2 was like Sonya's leg grab in MK1. I'm pretty sure that was the only move that used 2 buttons. Oh, and Johnny Cage's split punch, maybe. I think that was it, right? That's only two moves.
Down, block, and low punch, wasn't it? Something like that.
I think
Sub-Zero slide too, though.
Oh yeah, that's right, slide. Okay, so
right,
there was a few characters that had moves, and my hand couldn't do that. So when I went to play people, I was so frustrated with the fact that it had a block button, right? a button to block. Trying to remember that when I come from holding back at 10 years old. Of course, I caught on pretty quick, but I was really bad at MK1. I was like really bad. People like Sandro and Chitin that frequents the channel, and again, the late Ray, a lot of the people that I still know and probably Archon too used to beat me pretty regularly at that game. I tried to get good at it, but the way the Fun and Games was, which was the only arcade that I really went to at this point solely, other than I believe Marvin was talking about, like every once in a while you'd run into a grocery store that might happen to have Street Fighter like I did, or a laundromat or something along these lines.
7-Eleven.
Right. The only place that had Mortal Kombat that I was aware of at this time was Chesapeake Square Mall, and I couldn't beat anybody. So I went through my money really quick. And so when it came out on Super Nintendo, I rented it from a Blockbuster in Virginia Beach and never returned it. So look, I was freaking 10, 11 years old, right? So it came out, we got it from Blockbuster, and I knew that we were going to take it back eventually. But for us, Virginia Beach was a long drive. And back then, the roads aren't like they are now. It was a very long ride, and we didn't have Google Maps. So I couldn't even tell you where that Blockbuster was that we got it from. Anyway, we got it from Blockbuster. We never returned it. So essentially, it was my game. Okay.
Possession is 9/10.
Right. I got so good at Mortal Kombat 1, but I was unable to showcase this because of my ability. Like my hand wouldn't do the moves because of the fact that my hand wouldn't spread out to the buttons. So when my brother called me, like we talked about in last episode, and told me Mortal Kombat 2 was out, and I was so furious with him because of this. I believe it was 93 when MK2 came out. I think it was like the summer of 93. And
it came
so
almost a year later.
Yeah, so I went to the mall, and the first time I ever laid eyes on this game, I was in disbelief. Mortal Kombat 2 graphically, and Mortal Kombat 1 was very janky in terms of controls.
It was.
It was very, very sluggish, very, very like not fluent at all. This one was still that way, but it didn't feel that way. It felt great. And the first time I ever played Mortal Kombat 2, I waited my turn in the quarter line. And for those who don't know what the quarter line is, that's when you're up at an arcade machine and people put their quarters up to determine who's next, because otherwise it was just a free-for-all of everybody running up to the machine. It was kind of an unwritten rule, and it's amazing that no matter how many arcades I went to, that's how they all determined who was next. It was the universal quarter line that was never a written rule on a machine. But it was there. So it was my turn to play on there, and I picked Baraka. I don't know why. I picked Baraka, right? He had blades on his arms. Come on. I'm 10, 11 years old. This is amazing. Actually, at this point, I was 12. 12 years old. I'm like, this is amazing. And I ran a win streak. And I have never talked about my Street Fighter 2 lineage, but I didn't get win streaks in Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 World Warrior and Street Fighter 2 Champion and Hyper Fighting, your boy here spent more money than he ever won.
Said he got his cardio on the regular, walking back and forth.
I took hands more often than no. Back then, I didn't get to go to the changer. You got money, and when I'm out, I was a spectator.
Oh.
I was the kid that was standing next to the cabinet doing this number the whole time you're playing, just staring at the screen. You know, like looking at it while you're playing, just like, that's cool, man. How'd you do that? That was me.
I was that background characters doing this.
Yeah. Get him, Chun-Li. I was that guy, right? So Mortal Kombat 2, I had a win streak, right? I had like 5-6 wins in a row, which in that game, when you get a certain amount of wins, you can put your name in. I was freaking out, man. I was shaking, nervous, and everybody's like, why is he winning at this game? For some reason, Mortal Kombat 2 spoke to me. It spoke to me. And I remember in Mortal Kombat 1, the first fatality I ever saw was Sub-Zero's head rip. It's the first one I ever saw. And I don't even remember the order in which I saw the other ones. I'm almost positive I didn't see them until Super Nintendo days. Just because back then people didn't have access to everything. But Mortal Kombat 2, man, that game for me literally changed my life. And that's crazy to think, but that's true.
Yeah.
So did you guys play Mortal Kombat 2? And if so, did you? I know that Marvin didn't get a chance to play it in the arcades, but did you guys play it
I
in the
did.
arcades? Oh, you did? Okay. I mean, I know
I
you
was just,
did.
I was just super
Yeah,
young.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's. No, go ahead, man. I'll finish later.
No, well, I was gonna say, shoot, I think I first played MK2 uh at Champions Arcade at
Tower
Tower Mall.
Mall.
Yeah, because I would play that and Killer Instinct. Wait,
Killer Instinct was what, 94?
what was
94, 95?
I
I know
don't
for a
remember.
fact it was out in for 95, but I don't know if it came out early 95 or late 94.
Yeah, but I remember playing those at yeah, it came out in '94.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like kind of jump back and forth between those two, and then like whichever Street Fighter version, like Championship Edition or whatever was out.
So in the Mortal Kombat 2 era for the arcade, did you guys ever want to like play it like not competitively because there was no such thing then, but did you want to be like the best you can be, like a Pokemon trainer, or was it just a casual game for you?
I don't even know. I guess I didn't really know what competitive was back then, or like put words to it.
Mhm.
It was more like I just enjoyed playing it, and then I think the first thing I wanted to do was like I couldn't beat some of the okay, as a kid you don't understand how hard the AI actually is in MK2. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting there playing 2, and I'm like, little known fact, for the first couple months or whatever that I played, I was actually Sub-Zero player. But I kept getting beat a dude with a quote unquote hook. I'm like, who the hell? Like, I can't kill this guy. And then one of the guys that was watching me play told me how to do it he just kind of gave me his game, and he was playing Scorpion at the time, and he's like, oh, here's how you do this. And that was the first like special move I consistently knew how to do, and I was like, oh, sweet. I was a Scorpion player from then on. But I don't know, man. I just kind of played, and like I played with my friends, and by nature you kind of want to win, but I didn't have that like I'm going to get better to beat X person. I just kind of wanted to play the game,
I got you.
at least at first.
Yeah, I got you. What about you, John?
Like when I first played.
Yeah, like was it like did you? Because like I know the moment when I wanted to be the best. I know the moment. It wasn't Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I mean, same. It wasn't Mortal Kombat. It was like Mortal Kombat for me was just playing.
Yeah.
Not really any specific need or want to be better. It was just like I saw other people playing and just kind of wanted to play the game.
So what was your favorite character in MK2?
I always played ninjas, so Scorpion or Sub-Zero, but my favorite character even from MK1 was Johnny Cage, because I was a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan
Yep.
around that time, so like that kind of appealed to that fandom, was like just the way his character was and everything.
I loved his version in MK2. I thought MK2 Johnny Cage was amazing.
Oh yeah.
He's the one
With
I
like
always
shadow
think about.
uppercut and everything, and
It's
the
very
high and low
cool.
fireballs.
Yeah, very cool design. I actually really liked his design in MK2. Very generic in one, but very Bloodsport, which is where the
Right.
Jean-Claude Van Damme thing. And Sonya was very Cynthia Rothrock.
Yes.
Yep.
So, and I was a big Cynthia Rothrock kid, watching movies, the B movies with Billy Blanks, Cynthia
Oh, God.
Rothrock, Richard Norton. Boy, it
Oh.
was good. It was good times.
The
Mm.
movies were awesome.
So what
Yeah,
about you,
putting
Gamer?
age
Did
on it.
you
You're putting age on us? You better cut
I
that
know,
out.
right? Did you ever want to be like was Mortal Kombat ever a game that you thought you had to be the best at, or was it something you just enjoyed playing?
I didn't get competitive in the fighting games till late. I just wanted to play. I was a total arcade kid. Like I liked fighting games, but I played everything. Like anything I could put my quarters in, I played, and I played to death. But
Go ahead.
no, I say for Mortal Kombat 2, I just got good because I really wanted to beat Sandro. Like that was my thing. I just really wanted to beat him. But he taught me some, he taught a lot of trash, but he taught me how to play too. And I really liked Sub-Zero from first. Just like you said, Sub-Zero was the first fatality I saw. in the first game. I thought it was cool. I was like, rip somebody's head off? Yeah, I want to do that. And then I knew he had it in 2. Not only that, but he could freeze people and then you could do it. I was like, oh, this is gold. Like, and I love making people slip because I thought the ground freeze was hilarious.
I love the ice freeze. So a lot of people don't know that from the Fun and Games era, Sandro was like the glue to everybody.
Yep.
I mean, everybody. If you knew anyone in the area, they already knew who Sandro was. It was crazy. Anywhere that we went, and I mean this, anywhere that we traveled to, that we went to, they knew who he was. I don't know how, but everyone knew Sandro. It was crazy because I spent a lot of time with that man. Like, me and Fumi in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 put more man hours into that game than I care to tell. Like, we spent so many hours playing. But the fact of the matter is, it started with Sandro. I sat down with that guy and played Mortal Kombat 2 for so long, especially when it came out on console. But in the arcade days, when I had that win streak with Baraka, that's what changed everything for me, because Sandro actually got mad. I didn't know him at this time. I didn't know him. Like I said, in the Street Fighter days, there is one specific moment that's important to me that sticks out now that didn't stick out then. Back then, it was whatever. But now, when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was actually a monumental moment in my arcade days. But when I saw that machine and I went down and I sat down and I played Baraka, at this point, I had been playing Mortal Kombat 1 to a group of people, a lot of my friends that we just sat around my house, played on the Super Nintendo. And I got really good at it. And for some reason, MK2 just clicked with me. And when I play with Baraka, now my hand fit on the joystick pretty properly. And I didn't know moves, just basic meta, which didn't really change much. And I had I think it was like a 6-7 game win streak, whatever the minimum you need to get your name up there for was. But I remember Sandro getting mad because he couldn't beat me when they remember beating me in Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter. And at this point, I was already mad because in the arcade days, you have to understand, if the game comes out and there are people there playing it and you haven't gotten the opportunity to go somewhere that has it yet, when you get there, they already have knowledge over you. They already have time invested that you don't have. They already have knowledge. It actually says it on the machine. There is no knowledge that is not power, right? It says that in the intro. I think it's to MK1. I don't know if it's in MK2, but it does say in 2. And that's important, and it's very powerful, because if they understand move sets, it doesn't matter how good you are if you have never seen a move before. Every time a new Tekken comes out, you get hit by a new move. It just happens until you learn it. Yep. So for them, they had been playing it a week prior because, like I talked about before, my brother called and told me about all these people that were in the game. They had already figured out fatalities at this point because they were spending every day up there. These guys were much older than me. They didn't have, to stay at home, and they were able to go there and play. So after I beat them quite a bit, I played a lot that day, and I eventually moved around a bit. I loved the roster of Mortal Kombat 2. I think it's a perfect roster in terms of the amount of characters that are in the game and the amount of mystery that was in the game. There was no internet, so to find secret characters, to find fatalities, to see friendships and babalities, all that stuff, pit fatalities, no one had a clue. This game was revolutionary in a lot of ways to the arcade scene. Street Fighter didn't have this. Street Fighter had nothing up to this point other than a good fighting game. But all the Easter eggs, all the secret characters, of course they weren't playable, to the Kentaro fatality from Shang Tsung. There was just so many things this game had to offer. And once I got it at home and really got to break it down, I even found more stuff. I absolutely loved this game. And this game introduced Putt-Putt to me. It was Mortal Kombat 2 that introduced Putt-Putt to me, not Street Fighter.
That's how I felt about it. I rented the crap out of MK2. I played on Genesis though, but every time we went to Blockbuster, MK2 came home one way or the other.
Yeah, I actually had a friend of mine that we played MK2 like almost every day. Granted, we both sucked. Like we were pretty much mashers, but like what was his name? I think it was Andre Burnett, and I like almost every day we played MK2 for like hours.
Man, see, it's funny for me because I never liked the console versions of the games. So I was
Oh.
that guy who's like pure
Well, for
arcade.
number one, you're old anyway, so
Yeah. But yeah, I was older at the time. But I had so many Genesis games and stuff that I liked and Super Nintendo games that I never really played fighters. And plus,
Yeah.
I wanted to play fighters on a joystick. And back then, unless you spent money on that,
There was
know,
no good joysticks on Super Nintendo. I bought
none.
the only one where the buttons were in a diamond shape and it had the 2 shoulder buttons up top. And I learned how to play Killer Instinct on that joystick just so I could play the home version of it. It was
Oh God.
so bad. I couldn't play on it now if I wanted to, I'm pretty sure, but I learned how. But Mortal Kombat, go ahead.
No, I was about to say I never had a peripheral for the home version, a stick. And I couldn't play on a pad, so it was like, no way.
The
So
only game
never-
I ever played on pad ever was Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. That's it. I played Street Fighter on pad at home, like to learn the move sets, but I couldn't play the game. I couldn't even do a combo. So that's that for me. But after
See, I
I
don't
met,
think it bothered me.
it bothered me a lot. It bothered me a lot.
Well, then again, I
Me
keep
too.
forgetting that you guys are a little older than me, so maybe you had old enough to have a preference. With me, I was just happy to play it, so I could play, dude. I could play it in the arcade. I could play it on controller. In fact, I think I played it on PC on the keyboard once,
Oh my
a couple
God.
times. I was like, dude, I don't care. I just wanted to play the game. Like that's how it was, man. With anything, any games.
He was a beast. Like
So-
me, I was real picky back then. If it wasn't on a stick, I was no way. I was like, screw this, man. And especially on
Arcade
Genesis with the
purist.
3, I couldn't do it, man. It just drove me nuts.
I mean, you got to think it's like the mind of a child, though. It's like you just do. Like you're just happy
Yeah.
to do whatever it is, and you adapt to it really fast. That's why.
Yeah, I was a 10. I was a 10 at the time, and even then, I was like, I couldn't do it. It drove me nuts.
So obsessed with Mortal Kombat 2. I come from a broken home, and like my mom and dad, I talk with them almost every day. It's not like that was between them. It had nothing to do with the kids. But come from a broken home, and I think my mom always felt that in some way it might have been her fault or that she had to overcompensate for it. But when it came to Mortal Kombat 2, arcades closed at 9 o'clock, right? So for me, I had to, if it was during the day or whatever, I would literally beg my mother, beg her, okay, to take me to the mall so I could play the game every day. And the mall's not close to my house. For those who knew where I lived before, it wasn't close. It wasn't far, but it wasn't close, especially for a single mother to sit out in a parking lot while we went inside and played for hours and come back out and ask her for more money just so we could go in there and play this game. But you had no other alternatives. At this point, it wasn't on console. And it's like if you're in an area that can't afford the arcade, like if the arcade couldn't afford the cabinet, there was nowhere to play it. So you had to go where you could play it. And we would go there and play it. And once I got to know Sandro, who at that point was driving, and Ched and again Ray, they eventually started noticing how much time and effort I was putting into this game and how good I was. And that's when I got introduced to the territories. Like they introduced me to the territories. I only paid attention to Fun and Games. I didn't pay attention to all the other arcades that were out there. I didn't even know they existed. So like I knew about Tower Mall. Like I had gone to Tower Mall quite a bit. But like Greenbrier.
Did you ever go to Fun City? Off of,
after, not prior.
Oh God, I forgot about that place.
Yeah. So all these places that I went to, right, like after was because of Mortal Kombat 2, because of Sandro, and the movie theater behind the mall had Mortal Kombat 2 as well, which was called Cinemark.
Yes, it did.
So what would happen is the mall would close. and I would go to the car and I would beg. I'm not kidding. Like, I would literally beg my mother to take me to the movie theater so I could just go in there and play the game until they closed at 11 o'clock. And she would do this on a weekly basis because she just wanted to, I guess, give me whatever outlet she wanted to make me happy, and that made me happy. And again, I was good at it. But people started to show up at Fun and Games. They weren't from Fun and Games. They were from rival arcades. Ooh.
Yep.
The rivals.
The rival territories.
So Coliseum Mall had a couple people that played Mortal Kombat 2. Patrick Henry Mall had a couple people that played Mortal Kombat 2. Lynn Haven Mall, they only had like one person. Greenbrier Mall always had a plethora of people, none were good.
Yep.
And Tower Mall had a couple people. So at this point, people were always coming to the arcade to play Mortal Kombat 2 because at this point, I don't think every arcade had it in the area, and they would still play Mortal Kombat 1. So the games that we played weren't gone. They were still there. Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter 2. I can't remember. I want to say it was Hyper Fighting. But they would come and play those games as well. But they were mainly coming to play Mortal Kombat 2. And so at this point, I had pretty much settled on my characters, which were Mileena and Scorpion. Those were the two characters that I had really set on. Down the road, I eventually started playing all the characters, but that was the two that I really set on. Sandro played Mileena, and I don't remember who his other one was. I want to say it was Sub-Zero, because I remember him playing Sub a lot at Putt Putt.
Yeah, it was Sub-Zero. That's why, that's why I learned Sub, because he played Sub a lot.
Yeah, so it was Mileena and Sub-Zero. I played Mileena and Scorpion, go figure. But word started to get around how good we were, okay? So late 1993, I just remember it being cold. After playing a lot of people in the arcade days, someone, after they lost to me, said you wouldn't do that at Putt Putt. Right? I'm a kid. I'm a kid. I can't stress this enough, but people always talk to you like you're an adult. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Especially when they lose.
They're like, you wouldn't be able to do this at Putt Putt. And
age and gender don't matter in your arcade.
That's true. And so I was just kind of like, whatever. Like, what are you talking about, Putt Putt, man? Get out of here with that nonsense, right? I'm like, whatever, dude. You're like, I don't talk to you if you don't have money in the machine. So no, I mean, but so Sandro was there, and Sandro was like, I'm gonna go check out Putt Putt. And I was so mad because I wanted to check this place out. But again, I was young, didn't have a vehicle. And also, I mean, Putt Putt was a place that stayed open really late. And so I didn't really, my mom didn't want to necessarily let me stay out late. Eventually, she obviously did with Sandro and everybody. And it got to the point where I'd stay out days at a time. It didn't matter. But we traveled. So me and Sandro specifically traveled to every arcade in the area and beat everyone. And at this point, I was very confident that there was no one better than us at this game. Like, I was just very confident. Even at my age, we ended up wearing T-shirts that were called cans of, it was a can of whoop ass, and we would wear the different shirts, and each one would say something different. But that was our thing until eventually Sandro started taking on the and one stuff from like the basketball and one tour and stuff.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah, but we dominated the scene. I mean, dominated in a fashion where we would go to an arcade and just, in Mortal Kombat, it's one of the few games that you can change a character every time somebody plays you. Street Fighter, you were stuck. Mortal Kombat, it was unique. You could pick a different character each time. So it got to the point where me and Sandro would just say, okay, I'll play Mileena, and we'll just trade rounds, not sets, like round one me, round two him. And if we did lose, which, you know, didn't happen, the next time around we'd play somebody else or whatever. Well, you could change characters too. So I'd be like, okay, this time we're going to play Scorpion, or this time we're going to play Sub-Zero. And we just beat everybody. We hadn't seen friendships or anything at this point, but we did. We just beat everybody. And then Sandro said he was going to go check Putt Putt. So the next weekend came. I'm up at Fun and Games. At this point, we knew how to beat the computer. I know Marvin talked about it being the AI being very strong. We learned how to beat the computer without taking any damage and learned very aggressive and high damaging combos because of this. Because you can manipulate the computer into doing the moves you want them to do. But he said, okay, you're coming with me to Putt Putt. I said, are the people good there? He said, you're coming with me to Putt Putt. He said, so here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. And this is when I knew it was a different breed of people. He said, bring money. So all these other arcades, we're going there with $2 and $3, spending all day, not losing a round. He says, bring money. Okay. So my mom gave me $20. And I just remember, if anybody knows anything about Putt Putt, it's in the most shadiest area of places that you could ever imagine.
Yep.
The parking lot was just a complete disaster, right? And we go to walk into this place. I have never been here before. We go to walk in. There's a guy at the front door, won't let you in. Sorry, it's $5 to get into Putt Putt. $5? Yeah, $5 to get $5 in tokens because they had a problem with people loitering. Because right next door was a Flippers.
See, that was my spot. That was my spot.
Flipper McCoy's, which was a pinball place, but I believe they also served alcohol.
Yes, they did.
So, the way Putt Putt, so the way Putt Putt worked was you couldn't go there and just loiter. You're going to pay money to enter the door. And I got to tell you, I've never been intimidated walking into an arcade, right? At this point in my age. I walk into Putt Putt. No, like I'm serious. I walk into Putt Putt as a kid. I had to spend my money to get in. It all looked new to me. And right in front, like as soon as you walk in, right to your left was the Daytona machines, right? There was 4 of them. They were all linked together. Now, all the other arcades that I'd ever been to only had 2. This one had 4. They were linked together. They're all playing. It's super loud in this place. I just remember being very loud. All the games were turned all the way up. To the right of you was all the redemption games, completely segregated from the real games, okay? So I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not going over there.
Emphasis on the real games.
Yeah. So as soon as you get past the wall of Daytona machines were big screen cabinets, which no arcade had that I had been to. And I saw to the left of me was 1, 2 big screen Super Turbos, which no arcade had in our area except for Waterside. Okay. Yep. So Putt Putt had Super Turbo, and the crowd around that was massive crowds. On the back wall was SNK games. I think it was a KOF.
Yep.
Maybe 94. Was 94 out? Was there a KOF 94 or was it 95?
Yeah. 94 was the first, but I wasn't in the area when 94 came out.
So I'm pretty sure that was it. And then to the right side of this hallway were 2 other big screen cabinets, and they were both Mortal Kombat 2. And the crowd around that was twice as big as the crowd around Super Turbo. And Sandro was like, you need to not play around. He's like, when you get up there, play your best. Don't get nervous. And I'm like, I'm already nervous. You tell me don't get nervous. You telling me now I'm nervous.
Yeah, it's like, man, I had to pay to get in here.
All the arcade machines that I had ever been to had the unwritten rule of the quarter line, right? We talked about this. At Putt Putt, they had a quarter line screwed onto the cabinet. 1 through 10.
Yep.
And that was supposed to determine your order and when you were up. People didn't necessarily follow that order, but it was there. And I just remember putting my quarter up there, and I was just so nervous. And I'm watching the people play, and I'm looking at Sandro, and I'm looking at them play, and I'm like, these guys are really good, but you lost to them? So this is what I thought, right? In my mind, I'm like Gohan watching Goku fight Cell. Like, why aren't you doing more? Right. You should be able to beat these guys. What are you doing?
You let the Cybermen just beat you up like that?
Right. So I sat down And I was so nervous because it was a sit down cabinet too, right? You sat down on these big metal chairs. And so I ended up losing. I lost to the guy that was just not as good as me in any way, shape, or form. But that's what the arcade atmosphere does to you. And you will never get that in an arcade. That place intimidated me to the point that I lost to people I shouldn't have lost to. And we were standing there and just waiting in line to play these guys. And I just remember watching them play, and I was so mad. I'd spent so much time playing this game. I had been in so many arcades, and these people were sitting there. And I got to tell you, the way that you watch somebody hold a joystick, the way you watch them press the buttons, the way you look at the expression on their face when they're doing combos, all that stuff tells you what type of player they are. And none of them were as good as me. And that night, I don't think I won a single match. And I was so mad. I remember leaving, and the only thing I wanted to do was go back to putt-putt. That is it. And then the next time we went, it was a whole different ball game. I walked in, the same people were there. Putt-putt, their regulars were regulars. They were literally, I ended up becoming the putt-putt regular, right? They were always there. And the next time I came in there, I had to pay my money to go in. I sat down and played, and I never got up. The way putt-putt works, right? There's so many people there constantly playing. There's never a moment where you get to play single player. So I literally sat down there, and I never got up until I had to use the bathroom or until closing time. However, Street Fighter 2 was a different story. That's a different story for a different time. I spoiler alert, I never ever had a win streak at Super Turbo at putt-putt. Ever. But Mortal Kombat 2?
Not even 2 games?
No.
Even 2 games?
No, because the problem was the people that played Super Turbo there, Omar, Chris, and all them,
Yeah.
they were so good at the game. It was dumb. It was just frustratingly dumb.
Yeah, they were super good at that game. There's
a moment when you're playing a game that you know you can't beat your opponent. There's just a moment where you know you can't beat your opponent. And in Mortal Kombat 2, I literally never felt that, right? I always felt like I could always win in that game. But when I sat down at Super Turbo to play, if I happened to beat Chris or I happened to beat Omar, one of them was just coming up next. So imagine that, like you beat Justin Wong in Marvel 2, but then he literally puts his money back in to play again. It's like I'm not beating you twice.
Right.
And because no other area had Super Turbo, the only place you could practice was putt-putt. Or like I said, like Waterside. But they were the same distance from me. But Mortal Kombat 2 for me...
Champions had it too. I thought Champions had it too, didn't he?
They got it late. They got it late. Fun and Games got it late too. Yeah. They all got it eventually, but I mean, like early on when it was released, no, it was just putt-putt. But it got to the point where everybody knew at putt-putt who me and Sandro were. So then when we walk in to play Mortal Kombat, they looked at us like they looked at Omar and Chris. We were the unstoppable force in Mortal Kombat 2, whereas they were the immovable object in Super Turbo. That's how I got recognition from putt-putt. Like the people that worked there, Omar and them, they recognized me from Mortal Kombat, not Street Fighter. To this day, they'll tell you I'm a Mortal Kombat player, when in reality, I'm a Street Fighter player. I was just better at Mortal Kombat. But I loved Mortal Kombat 2. Like, what was your favorite fatality in Mortal Kombat 2?
Oh, shoot, easy. Sandro taught me how to be a jerk and with Sub-Zero.
Yeah, because you could infinitely freeze. We did that a lot at putt-putt, by the way.
Oh, so you know.
We did that a lot at putt-putt. We were kind of a-holes like that. Sandro would be on one cabinet and I would be on the other, and we would literally just run it. So like he would play Sub-Zero and he would just sit there and do that, and they would just have to stand there and watch him, or they'd have to play me. It was so okay. So I get it. I see what you're saying.
That was it. Just refreeze you over and over, and either rip your head off or through the fireball, either through the ice.
A bunch of jerks.
But when I did it to him though,
We're
'cause
all
he's with
friends at
me
Fun
all
and
the time.
Games, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and I did that to him. Like the freeze into the friendship was stupid. It was like,
Dude, I
Oh
love
wow,
doing
that's
that, man.
messed up.
Cyber
It is
taught me
messed
that
up.
crap.
Yeah, it is messed up. But that's just it. Like that's how we talked in the arcade days. We talked with playing. Like people get so mad now about teabagging. It's like you have no
Bro, you have no idea.
idea.
teabag is tame
Bruh.
compared to what we used to do to
Have you
people
ever been
back in
turned
the
into
day.
a baby? Get out of here talking about teabag. You ever been turned into a
know.
baby? You have to watch yourself whine in diapers on the machine?
I say, you
How
don't know
did,
if
how
you
did you how did you do babalities?
Friendships where you couldn't block and use all kicks. I think I don't remember babalities. I think
Babalities and Friendships were done the same.
they were done
It
the
was
same.
just that
Okay,
it was
the different
a
motions.
combination.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you couldn't
Nah.
use punches, and then you
So
could.
imagine.
So if you got beat by
Imagine.
Scorpion, that means he never did a special move other than the leg takedown, which you can uppercut him
Oh,
right
I got-
afterwards.
Exactly.
I see your Scorpion. I raised you one. Neo was here for that one. So fast forward a couple years after that, we're in PAG, and that one guy was playing Liu Kang against me, and he was talking all that trash, and I beat him with Reptile and gave him a doll. And Neo was like,
Yeah.
"It's supposed to happen." I'm like, "I know."
Now he
yeah,
has no
I'm
special
saying.
moves. You got beat with regular buttons.
Like, that
Reptile's
was
like the worst
Reptile.
character in the game too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I've seen Sandro do that to people and Cyber do it to people. Like just beat them with Reptile and go invisible and then turn 'em to a baby. It was like the funniest thing ever. It was like, oh, that's just wrong,
The one,
man.
yeah, huh? When Cyber did to me on accident when we were playing in FNG one time, it goes, "I knew I screwed up when the blades came out." And I was like, "Oh
Because
my
I was
god!"
playing Baraka, yeah. I was trying to give him a present, but he did the blades, and as soon as the blade comes out, I'm like, well, he's a baby. My bad.
Yep.
Didn't mean it.
Exactly.
Didn't mean it. So okay, so yours was Sub-Zero. What was your favorite, John?
I don't know. I still liked Scorpion a lot, so I liked his the one where he took the kunai and like cut him across the waist and decapitated him.
Okay.
Slit his
Okay.
throat, cut him in half.
Yeah.
Marvin.
I mean, I kind of had two, but if I pick my number one, it's Scorpion's Toasty. I'm Scorpion main. I like Scorpion as a character, and I always thought that was really cool to me. And it was like a unique animation from change from the first one, because the first one you just kind of turned to skeleton and like crumpled, but this one you like fried and exploded.
Yeah, the upgrade
That
from
was
that
pretty
from
neat.
1 and 2 is insane.
Yeah.
Everything about MK2 was just so much better in terms of everything, in my opinion, graphically, in my opinion, gameplay wise.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Easter eggs. I thought Kentaro was way cooler than Goro. I
Me
thought
too.
that Shao Kahn was way cooler than Shang Tsung. I liked the young Shang Tsung in the
Yeah.
game. I liked all the characters in MK2. Like, I did always think that Katana's story was kind of bum, but I liked the character.
Oh, I
Like
love
everybody else, I
Katana, yeah.
liked.
That's who my brother played.
She became my
But-
secondary. I like her so much.
She was dumb.
She was
My
so good.
favorite
She was so fun.
fatality. What do you guys think my favorite fatality was? I guarantee you don't get it. I guarantee I'll give everybody one guess.
Oh man,
I
I
have
can't
no idea.
remember.
Character?
I can't remember.
I
'Cause I
Johnny
should know
Cage's
this.
triple decapitation.
I liked that one a lot, but no.
no.
Nothing?
Oh man,
Mhm.
Nothing?
are you gonna say it? I'm gonna be like, that's it, because I'm pretty
I
sure
don't-
it's
I
on
don't-
the tip of my tongue.
I don't think you would get it. I really don't. I don't think anybody would get it.
Is it Sonya's Kiss of Death?
She's not in MK2.
Remember, she's in the background, chained up.
Right,
Oh,
right,
she's
right,
not
right,
in
right,
MK2.
right.
And no, I hated
Katana was
I
that.
hated that fatality, by the way. I thought it was whack.
Ugh.
So whack.
It was wild.
So was Liu Kang's, but I understand why.
Yeah,
Use your animality.
Oh God. Oh God.
let's not talk about that.
That's the one fatality I hate to get hit by. Like, I could.
Cujo?
but
Cujo? You didn't like Cujo from Nightwolf?
No, I was just
No.
saying like him turning into a dragon
Oh.
for his fatality for MK2
Fatality.
anyway.
I thought that was an
I hate-
awesome fatality, but it was stupid in the terms of Mortal Kombat.
That's
Like that
what
was
I'm
the,
saying.
that was the start of their really ridiculousness into the 12 rib cages and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it was not the dragon. If anybody was wondering, it's not the dragon.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. think.
It
I have
was
a couple in my head.
it was Baraka's lift him up fatality.
Really?
Why was
'Cause
that was Eric's?
so-
I think that
Actually-
was Eric's for some reason. I don't
He
know
had a
if
lot
Eric
of
played
unique
it or
fatalities in
not,
2,
but-
actually.
2
Yeah,
was
they did.
amazing, man. 2 was
Yeah.
great. I loved it. Like, because
3 they
what
got-
when he picked him up, like that was one of the first ones I saw. And remember, that was the first character I ever picked. So I was actually like, I thought the character looked really cool. But when he picked him up and they were like struggling, and then they just stopped and then they slid down, I was
Slid
like,
down, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
then
that for
MK3
me.
they got into the copy and paste, and everybody had 8 rib cages. And,
There was, I don't think there was a single cool fatality in MK3. I'm just being real. I don't think there was.
Nah.
ones where they
See,
burn
my-
you.
See, my history,
yeah.
MK3 is like it's never. I was never good at MK3 because I was never around for MK3. I was deployed when MK3 kicked off. It was weird because literally 3 came out. I learned like Sub-Zero was broken in that one, so I learned
Mhm.
him. I went to deploy. I came back and Ultimate was out. I didn't even know Ultimate existed,
Right.
and nobody was playing at that time. Still, like that's how much time I was gone. I was like, wait a minute, because overseas they didn't have more combats.
Right,
Overseas.
right.
Yeah.
I remember the magazines that had it in there.
I love the magazines, man.
Like
Was it
the-
game video?
like EGM and
Yeah,
like Game
And
Pro.
Yeah.
oh, dude, the third one's coming out. It used to be rumors and stuff in school and all that crap. But I was like, when there was no, okay, I'll say no ninjas like the ones we were used to in it. I was like, that kind of sucks. So
Yeah,
I ended
that was
like
weird.
Cyrax and Sub-Zero, but they were both busted.
Yeah.
So I think vanilla MK3 was the black sheep, and then of course there were rumors like, oh, you can unlock this character and that, and it was like not really. And then I walked to the arcade one day. It was actually FNG. You know where DDR was? That's
Yeah.
where UMK3 was when I first saw it, and I was like, wait a
in the
minute,
center.
yeah, right. in the center.
reptiles? How do you get them? I didn't know it was 2 different versions, and then I kind of figured it out. And I was so happy when I figured out you could use Human Smoke because he was my favorite hidden character. I was like, oh my god! I went right to the arcade to try to unlock him, and I did it. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And for those who are really interested in the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade era and some of the meta and the competitions that sort of took place then, Ketchup and Mustard on YouTube have a fantastic documentary
yes.
on the
I
series.
watched part of that.
They were not around for that era, but the people that they talked to that were pretty much nailed it right on the head. For me locally, it was a lot of the same stuff that they were talking about in their hometowns. Tournaments weren't really a thing then, but I like they were, and it was very far in between places. Like it was hard to find them, but they did
Back
exist.
in the day, man. See, back in the day, though, every weekend was a tournament. Like every Saturday,
True.
every Friday, Saturday was a tournament because so many people was around, and you
Mhm.
want to survive. Like you not spending money was you winning the tournament because you just
Mhm.
you didn't want to spend money. So that was the tournament.
Yeah.
So that's why you see a lot of guys, even today, arcade vets who do good, who are not nervous because they're used to that because every Saturday was that way. Everybody was on your shoulder, breathing down your neck, talking
Yep.
trash in your ear. Like you had to
I-
take all that.
I
trying to
feel
keep a win streak.
I feel so lucky and at the same time bad for everyone else that didn't get to experience that at its height. Because what you see now, if you see a bunch of people crowded around a console at a tournament or even playing a fighting game now, and you're like oohing and eyeing and you're like, man, this feels really cool. This was literally every weekend for years, from 1993 or 2 until 2002. I mean, like almost 10 years of every weekend having a absolutely blast of a time playing with people that you've never seen before, and then other people that you only got to see then. And it was cool to see how people grew. Like, I always hated it when people came up to me playing Mortal Kombat 2 and they would look at me play and notice that I was good and then be like, hey, yo, who's the best character in this game? And back then, like, tier list exists, and we knew in our head who the best characters in the game were. It was very apparent, the difference and gap between the characters. But we would go places and see lower tier characters played at a very high level. And it got to the point where, yes, Melina and Jax absolutely decimated the entire roster. But at the average level of play, it didn't matter. At the average level of play, you could pick any character and win. And it was a matter of outsmarting your opponent. And Mortal Kombat 2 was a very busted game, but it was so fun to play. especially at Putt Putt. I met so many people playing that, and then the rumors that went around where people thought that you could ice skate on Sub-Zero's ground ice for
I
friendships
remember that.
and stuff like that. It was like, it was just so different because you didn't know. People would come from out of town and just tell you the biggest bold-faced lie, and you almost had to believe them because it's like Ermac in the background. It's like, oh, he's playable. It's like, oh, is he? Because I mean, is he? You don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
the-
really, we had no
That's what you
no
use the hooks.
internet video. There was no YouTube back then. Like, there was no way to disprove any of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See, I'm glad I was around that stuff, but I wasn't aware of, you know, the side of the things that you were talking about. It's like I was there, I was around some of the stuff in some of these arcades, like especially FNG. I just didn't know what it was. I just thought it was a bunch of people playing. I didn't realize how it was like, you know,
Oh man.
that deep, I guess. But I'm so
For-
glad I got to, you know, I know what it was about. I just didn't know that concept.
For us, MK2, UMK3, and Killer Instinct, those 2-year span was insane for the arcade era. Absolutely insane. Killer Instinct especially. But Super Turbo for us, like, it got so bad in the Street Fighter arcade era for us locally, no one played it anymore except for playing it at Putt Putt. You couldn't go to an arcade and find any tangible players because they all just went to Putt Putt. They would all just go there to play Super Turbo, and they would just all lose to the same 4 people. Like, it was like that. They literally, they owned that game at Putt Putt. They just owned it. Like we did Mortal Kombat, but we traveled. The Putt Putt crew, like, they didn't travel. They may have traveled for tournaments like ECC and stuff like that, but they did not leave that area, that safe bubble. They stayed in it and they ran that place. You didn't go there and walk out victorious. You couldn't go there and claim that arcade. The Killer Instinct slow combo, I used to do that all the time. I'm the best when people would come in the arcade just to show them, like, because they were hard to break. They were hard to combo break, but some of them I think were unbreakable. I think Orchids. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But-
Orcus was hard. 'cause she
I-
was
I
only
only-
trying to play.
If you got launched, that was it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that was Infinite. Everybody had one of
Yeah, no.
those. But yeah, no, and Idol and all that. But this, yeah. So for Mortal Kombat 2, overall, I would say that game for me changed my life. I think it changed the industry and how they faced arcade games after that in terms of fighting games. I feel like this game was like one of the few games that was revolutionary in terms of arcade staying power. Mortal Kombat 1 didn't, I mean, it had Reptile, but nobody found him forever. I think MK2 really had everything that you could ask for in a fighting game. Everything.
Yeah.
I think
So-
that put me on the path.
And at this point, I was already on. Like I said, this was the game that I was the best at this point. But I was already knew that I wanted to be the best. That I could. I was Ash Ketchum. I knew that. But it was Street Fighter 2 that made me feel that way. But this was the game that I got there, and it was really cool with the people that I met, the places that I went. I mean, I traveled for this game. I didn't travel for any other game at this point. I traveled for this one. And in this game, I met Archon. I met Sandro, Ray, Titan. I met so many people from playing this game to the point where I'm still friends with them. Gamer. I met Gamer, who's in the call right now playing Mortal Kombat. And
Actually, that's funny. Freaking funny, man.
yeah. So I to me, I think this game was awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I have a lot of memories with it, but what you just described in my world is I think I came in to something akin to that, and it's what I call the ghost of what that was, because for me, meeting you guys was because of UMK3 and because of you. Like that, because I saw you guys in the arcade all the time, but I just went and played UMK3, and it wasn't until you played me that I kind of like got exposed to. I guess I could say your world.
Mhm.
And then it was ironic because that was the first time I started being like, I actually want to beat somebody. I'm like, how do I get around this? Like, I had no idea what to do. And you throw me little nuggets of information here and there, and I kind of absorb it, and then gave me a new idea for something else. And it kept going. Like, and it's like I was like, I can't ever. It's like Roshi did to Goku. It's like you always have to be in front of him just to know there's somebody better. And I didn't realize how good I was actually getting at UMK3 until I was playing everybody else, and nobody beat me but you.
That was the thing back then. I learned at a young age in my area. I don't know how this worked for all the other areas. If you wanted someone to play games with you and continue to play games with you when they're at a lower level, so to speak, because you got to remember they're paying for it, right? They're paying to play you. You don't want them to run out of money and then never come back again. You want them to come back, even if you know they can't beat you. You don't have to friend everyone that you play, but in my experience, it was helping people get better in small doses. If you overwhelm them with knowledge, they're not going to want to play the game anymore. And if you don't give them any knowledge, they're going to think you're a prick. They're not going to want to play you. There were so many people that would come into the arcade and put their money in, and if you put your money in to play them, they would walk off. They didn't even want to play you because they knew that they couldn't win. They wanted to play the computer because they could. They felt they got their money's worth. I wanted to make it not about the money. I wanted to make it about the experience, about you coming to play and learning. Like, if you can take knowledge away from a loss when you leave and not feel bad about it, you want to come back and play and do what you learned. You want to now practice with the stuff that you were just taught, something that you saw. And in this particular case with Marvin, when I saw him and his friend playing UMK3, look, I'm going to be 100% honest. Most of the people that I saw playing UMK3, if I was walking through the arcade, my goal was to just stomp them in the ground and show them they shouldn't be playing my game. But the thing was, that was, you got to remember, this is years after the game is dead. This game died in the 90s. We're talking in the 2000s. I see somebody step up to the machine. I have to assume they're good, right? Why would you play a 20-year-old game unless you know what you're doing? So I would go up there and be like, mind if I play, right? In this case, I saw Marvin. I saw his friend, Mike, right? It was Mike?
Yeah.
And they would always play. And one would play Cabal, he would play Robot Smoke, and I'd watch him play in the background, and then I'd walk away. The next weekend, they'd come back and they'd play again. And I'm like, okay, let me go watch this. So I'd go watch them play again. And keep in mind, at this point, I think we were playing Soul Calibur 2, and I think Tekken 5 was out at that point.
Yeah.
It was Soul Calibur 2 and Tekken 4, and 5 had come out a couple months later.
Yeah. 5 was a little later down the road. But yeah, all we had was like 4, Tekken 3, and Soul Calibur 2. Because that was when we were having like the Soul Calibur 2 tournaments.
Yep.
Console tournaments.
Yep.
Yeah, because I used to always, like, in between matches, watch you guys play Soul Calibur. I'm like, I'm never playing this game. Yeah, that doesn't last long.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I watched them play. And I loved watching them play. And it's not because they were the greatest players in the world. I mean, at this point, they were playing the game for fun. And that's earlier when we started this podcast. And I was asking John and everybody when they played Mortal Kombat, did they want to be competitive? When UMK3 came out, I was already competitive. I was already... JB gifting some subs. I saw you gift one too, John. Don't let me do it. I didn't forget that. I saw it. I was already at the point that I wanted to be the best. I was already competitive. And so it was fun to see people playing the game and just playing it for the enjoyment of playing it. They were just two friends trying to kick the crap out of each other to see who was better, right? But I noticed when they were playing, they weren't necessarily trying to get better. They were just playing to play with their friends. So I was curious. Two things were going to happen when I got on that machine. Two things. I was either going to beat them down and then they were never going to come back again, or they were going to see at what level this game could be played at and be curious. You got to remember, like I said, this game at this point was 10 plus years old. I'm like, man, why are they coming to play this? So I played them And I played Mike first. And I think he made the mistake of running with Cabal, and I blocked it with Nightwolf and proceeded to take out 65% of his health. Marvin in the background goes, holy shit, what is this guy, right? At that point, the two things could have happened. They could have walked away, or they could have tried to play. And I saw Marvin put in his money, actively want to beat me. I knew in my head he didn't have a shot at that time. He had no shot, but he wanted to. He didn't get discouraged. So then I started giving little nuggets of information. And then I didn't play again, right? They came in the next weekend. I started watching them play again. And it got to the point where his friend Mike couldn't hold a candle to him anymore. It got to the point where Mike would come up to me and give me money and tell me to take Marvin off.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
So I started to realize Marvin's starting to get better, starting to understand the game. It was at a much slower pace than any other fighter because we didn't play it very much. And when we did play it, he only played a few times and then chilled and walked around and did whatever. But he didn't get discouraged, and that's what the important part is. The important part of that was you wanted to get better, and that's where that instinct came from, the wanting to get into the fighting game scene. And that's where, like for me, whenever I played someone towards the end of my career, I was curious to see how they took knowledge, how they took their beatings. Because everyone takes beatings in fighting games. Everyone. It's how you take them that matters. You don't learn anything from winning. I don't care what anybody says, you don't learn anything from winning. The only thing you learn from winning is if what you did in practice worked. That's it.
True.
But if it didn't work and lost, you're going to try to figure out a way to make it work or try something else in general. If it did work, you're not going to try something else until you lose. So that's why in Mortal Kombat 3, I played you even though it was in the year 2000, whatever. That's why. I saw you two play and I thought, man, this dude's pretty cool. Let me see if I can and help him get better and see if he wants to continue to play the games that we play now. And he got sucked. He got hooked.
Yeah, see, that's why I said I kind of regret not knowing about all that stuff as a kid because it was like I liked the game that much that I was playing it that like anytime I saw it, I'm like, hey, I'm playing this crap. And then the reason I was so like stunned was I had never seen anybody play the game like that, like at that level. Like I've seen it before as a kid a little bit, but not like the way you did. Like you took this dude out, and I'm sitting here like they literally counted to 5 and it was over. I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, I can't play around. Like I literally have to pick Scorpion because he was my main character. So like, I can't mess around.
Right.
Like I don't even know what to do. I was just happy to take half a bar off you.
Dude, I remember
But it
that because
just-
I remember when Mike was playing and like Trent walked over. I was like, nope, not watching this, and I walked away. And I was like, yeah, no.
No, but I mean, that was also strangely enough that was the only game even till this day. No matter how many times I lost or how bad, I never got pissed off because I loved the game that much. Like I was just like I have to figure something else out or whatever it was. And then even Darman, like we used to be kind of even, and then he would come in after a couple months we were playing, and he just got bodied. I'm like, oh, okay. But Blackula's house was like, hey, let's play MK. That was a mistake. The tournament we went to in Virginia Beach, like, oh, let's play MK2, beat him down. Oh, let's play a real game. Let's play UMK3. Didn't matter. And I would text you, I was like, dude, they're trying to play me in UMK3, and I'm handing out dolls left and right. And you're like, I've taught you well. I was dying, dude.
It's just, and that's how I always taught in arcade era. I always taught that way. And it's weird because when I played Street Fighter 2, the people that seriously triggered me at a young age slowly did the same to me. They slowly coddled me to the point where I was able to learn and play the game. And then afterwards, they couldn't do that anymore. They had to play me for real. And that's a story for a different day. But back then, people didn't have like money matches and stuff like that. That was not a thing. Like every once in a while, somebody would throw $1 on the machine. But like I said, you had to play to pay already, or pay to play already.
Pay to play, yeah.
So
It's just about pride.
Yeah, that's literally
it's all
all it
about pride.
was. And for me, it was all about having somebody to talk to afterwards. What good is me being good at a game if nobody wants to play it?
Facts.
True.
If you the only
Then I'm
one
just playing the computer, right? Who cares? King of the cul-de-sac. Congratulations. No, I wanted to take on the world, and to do that, I needed friends to help me grow as a person as well as a player. And so that's how Fun and Games that's how we always treated each other. And whenever we went somewhere, that's how we stayed together. There was like, I think Alex Valle had put out a tweet when it was the old versus new, and he had the whole conversation about save it for the Nationals, talking about how people withheld information.
Yeah.
People didn't really withhold information so much as there was tech that they wanted to use to break out in a situation that they really needed it. But there was no telling that the other person didn't have that same nugget of knowledge. I think you're muted.
Am I muted?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh,
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, but I was like, I've never really liked that mindset of, having this ace in the hole card to just like always hold and never reveal what it is or never try, because it makes me feel like if you use your trump card and it fails, you have nothing else to
You
fall
got
back on.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like I've always like I've always wondered why people have trouble adapting to like a situation, like say, like I said, you practice the same thing and it's like, yeah, I got this one setup
Right.
that'll guarantee like a one hit kill, but then if you screw it up, okay, what do you do now? Or you did it and now it's like, well, all right, they fell for it the first time, they fall for it again, they got to be dumb, you know.
That was for me.
I think-
That's what military was, a blessing and a curse. Because I missed a big gap of stuff because I was deployed and I left area. I left like '95 because that's when I joined the military and I left. And I would come back every periodic time, when stuff was going out, and I hear about how Trenton everybody destroyed everybody. I was like, dang, what's been going on? But traveling let me go different areas, and I met good people who was in different areas. I learned different tech from different people.
Yep.
Whether just playing them and talking to them, they just like, oh yeah, man, just do this and do that. Like I got good at Street Fighter just because of that. Like I really wasn't a competitive guy, but the fact that I went to so many arcades and played so many people, and I learned so many things and took so many L's, but I got good not thinking about it because I was playing with these good people and I learned from them. And people were mad cool. Like once people, open up different areas, you start learning tech, and that just happened for every game. For Mortal Kombat, well, not really much Mortal Kombat because a lot overseas nobody played. But I learned KOF, Street Fighter. I learned especially KOF because KOF is a small community anyway, and people just happy you playing. So, but the people who are playing,
That's factual information right there, my friend.
yeah,
And that's a
But the
shame
peop-
because the KOF games were good, but yeah, no, if you had people to play, yeah, they were just happy that you were there. That wasn't how it was at Putt Putt. They were happy to show you how you shouldn't be over there.
yeah, it's like nah.
They were
but
happy to
98
show
is
you
when
that you were wasting your money.
Yeah, KO 98 is when it really got competitive because the game was really good and still considered one of the best KOFs to date. And that's got real competitive. But the people who played were really good, and they knew, what to do, and they just were open to teach you. So the mentality of keeping it for nationals, like, what if I don't travel to nationals? What's the point of keeping it?
Right.
And like I said, you don't want to be king of the cul-de-sac. Who cares? I want to take this to different arcades and be good at different arcades. So keeping tech and people will figure stuff out anyway.
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
well,
There's no telling if
yeah.
they were holding something back as well. Like it wasn't so much like holding tech. I'm sure if like you used it and somebody saw something happen and they asked, I don't think, at least not in my area, we wouldn't be the type that wouldn't tell you. We would tell you
no.
after we did it. We kind of like prided ourselves on finding stuff out, because if we
Yeah.
told you, you would remember who told you.
Yeah, like
Because
that's how.
here's a great example. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, there were people on the West Coast, Shady K, Clockwork, and a few others that used to do videos and find tech about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And whenever they found tech, this is when like YouTube was just starting to get big, as well as just videos in general that people could download from the web. And so me and Fumi and Eric, God, you know what? I think Sai might have been part of it too, had figured out a certain tech in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. We're not going to go in depth into that tech now because we were talking Mortal Kombat. But in general, when we figured that tech out, we didn't want to say anything until we figured out how to use said tech, right? 2 weeks later, a video comes out from Shady K and them that showed that exact same tech. And they showed like ways that it could be applicable in a match. And we had posted on the forums, they're like, oh yeah, we actually found this out recently as well. And no one believed us because we didn't have video proof and we didn't tell anybody about it. But we had found it in the confounds of my house. We just didn't want to say anything. So in turn, it ended up backfiring on us for even saying anything. So back in the day, yeah, we always, if we found something out, we wanted people to the first to know that we found it out. So that way we get recognition for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was, well, with the mentality that you had, I think it was good that you, I can't speak for everybody else, but that you taught me what you did when you did it, because the era I was coming into was more of the secretive and kind of a-hole era is what I call it, where everybody's like hiding stuff and like, oh, every man for themselves, and it was more click based.
Mm-hmm.
But even till this day, like I come at it with that mentality too, because I mean, I play at the comic store, when I used to bring my setups and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember one day we're playing UMK3 and like a bunch of people wanted to play me. I was like, what happened here? And then I was explaining stuff to them, like a little bit of history like we have now, and here's how you do this, and showing them stuff. And then Gamer caught me doing it I don't even know why I did it at CEO. This kid was playing Jin. And usually I'm just kind of like, every Jin that is not my own must be destroyed. So I'm like, I don't care less. But I sat down with this kid for like 45 minutes just telling him stuff, and he was just eating it up. Gamer's over here is like, oh, I see you, Sensei Vegeta. I'm like, shut up, man. Really do it. But it's the same thing. It's just you have that kind of like, you see something, you just have the urge to be like, hey, let me show this kid something, or whatever it is, and just how it works. It's how I am, I guess. More of a rough around the edges version than you, but still do it.
But see, it also made you better, though. That's the part that people don't understand. Once you teach people this stuff and they get good, it'll make you better because you have to step your game up.
I always felt that way. That way. It was weird too, because when I came back from the East Coast Championships, it's not like I played people that were like infinitely leagues better than me, but just based off the knowledge that I obtained in that one weekend, when I came back from that, I was untouchable. From that point on, I was untouchable, other than Fumi, for the rest of the existence of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And that was within the first few months of that game's existence when we went up there. That's just
I learned.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, I've learned so much from that one weekend. Like, my team composition changed so much just from with the assist I used and everything else because of that weekend. And just talking to people, they're like, no, use this assist. This is why I found the Cammy assist was the anti-air was the best assist. I tried to rush down with the drill. It's like, no, use anti-air because it's invincible when she goes up. You can't hit her.
Right.
And I was like, oh, snap. And, right before we left, people started using the Magneto combo.
Yep.
And he thought he couldn't get out of it. And I was literally playing just a Wong, and he did it. Like, he hit me in a combo and then go on my side and shake me out of it and told me how to get out of it. I was like, oh, it's like, damn, that's crazy. So that's how you get. So I never got hit with it again. Like, people try to do it and they couldn't hit me with it.
Right.
I learned how to get
because
out.
For the longest time, it was that combo was cheapness. It was the cheap combo. Cheap combo.
Exactly.
And now it's like, oh my God, yeah, it's crazy.
Everything I learned about MK was from Cyber, because obviously, well, the game was dead, and I, absorbed everything I could and did everything I could on my own. And it wasn't till actually Gamer went with me to Evo, and was 2019 we went.
Yeah.
God, that was 2 years ago. Holy crap! No, but ask him. Like, I'm there for Tekken and like MK11, but anytime I wasn't playing my tournament matches, I was over there by the UMK3 cabinets playing, and I was playing like against like Ketchup and Mustard and all those people, and I'm like, dude, this is
over there.
Infinitely fun. Like, this is like, I have missed this, and I gained so much more from that too. I'm like watching them playing against them, and I'm like, I wasn't actually doing bad. I won a money match from some random guy who was mad at me. I don't remember if I showed you guys that or not, but it was like free. I'll play you for 10. I'm like, okay, and I destroyed this kid. I'm like, and I played a tune for him with Robot Smoke, and I told him like we're all friends here at Evo.
That's
Yeah, man, it's
hilarious.
just yeah, just going to places and experiencing different play styles and just that kind of stuff. You gain so much, and that was how you got better back then because there was no internet.
It's true. The fun fact in MK2, one of the first girlfriends I ever had, I met by giving her a birthday cake in Mortal Kombat 2. She was playing MK2. I remember she was playing Mortal Kombat 2. She was playing Katana, and she actually beat the guy that she was playing. Right? She actually beat him. She actually knew the move. She was not like great at the game, but she wasn't bad. And everybody was like, "Oh my god, you know, she's so hot," kind of thing. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go play her." And they're like, "What? Don't beat her really bad." I'm like, "No, cool. Watch this, right?" I'm all slick.
I'm gonna put hands.
So I picked Katana as well, right? I'm such a like if you think about it, how that's an a-hole
Jerk.
move. Yeah, that's a jerk,
Yes.
right? So I picked Katana too, but I did it because I wanted to give her a friendship. I didn't know if she had ever seen it before. I'm thinking I'm gonna be cool. So anyway, I proceed to beat her pretty bad, right? But I gave her a birthday cake, right? I gave her a friendship, gave her a birthday cake because at Fun and Games, we're all friends, right? So after I gave her the birthday cake, she was like, "Oh, you gave me a birthday cake for my birthday." And I'm like, "You know, hi, yeah, isn't that funny?" She's like, "No, really, it's my birthday." I'm like, "Oh, well,
Like, yeah,
happy
that's exactly
birthday."
right.
I knew I'm psychic. So from that point on, we started talking, and she ended up giving me her number when she left. And everybody was like, "Yo, that was like, we're all nerds, right?" And they're like, "That's the slickest move I've ever seen." I'm like, "Yeah, y'all ain't ready for that birthday cake, Vic."
That birthday cake tag.
So being good at fighting games, guys, in the arcade era was beneficial to me in many ways. Just a fun fact. She dumped me like a month later, but you know what? It doesn't matter. All that matters
It's
is
like you hit her with a babality, and she was like, "You know what?
all that
Yeah.
matters. No, the funny thing was she never she only came up there and played Mortal Kombat like one more time after that. Like she wasn't bad at the game. I don't even know why she came up there to play it in the first place. I don't even think I ever asked her. But I always went to her house after that and just hung out with her there. I don't think we ever went back to the mall at the same time again. And then like she ended up dumping me like over the phone. So
Damn.
I mean it's whatever. Obviously I got over it.
Right.
So it's not a big deal, but it's just I mean we were like 12, 13, whatever.
So I'm curious though, right quick for Mortal Kombat. Like I said, I was overseas when 3 hit. Like when
Mhm.
Ultimate came out,
Mhm.
I was overseas. How long did Ultimate like last? How long did that scene last? Because when I came back, I was only gone for like I think we were gone 7 months.
So in our area, it didn't last long, and here's the reason why. In regular Mortal Kombat 3, that game was awful. Nobody played it. It was really
all 3 was
bad.
Yeah,
It was
Black sheep.
yeah, it was really really bad. So when Ultimate came out, it was really hard to get crowds for it because they didn't know, like Marvin said. And back in the day, you didn't know that there was updates to games. So people just assumed it was the same Mortal Kombat 3. And a lot of people didn't give it a shot. So we actually had to go and find competition. And so the competition was more stiff, but it was less people.
right.
So like in general, like, you know, where Fun and Games used to roll like 8, 9 deep. Now we were up to like 3, 4 people. Other places that had, you know, 5, 6 people. Now they only had 2. Putt Putt had no one. We were Putt Putt. Like when we went to Putt Putt and won in Mortal Kombat, they were pretty much, everyone thought that we were the people that hung, like we were Putt Putt, even though we were Fun and Games. And we even carried around Fun and Games tokens to remind them that it was Fun and Games. But they like slowly adapted us as Putt Putt players because that was the only game, like we ran that game there and we would always go there to play it. So they just assumed that's where we played it. So yeah, the Ultimate Mortal Kombat scene was actually, it was dead, but harder, if that makes sense. There wasn't a lot of mall scrubs. It was anybody you played against knew their character and was pretty good with it. Mortal Kombat 2 carried a lot a lot of mall scrubs. And in Mortal Kombat 2, the game became so complex that it was simple. And so just based off of someone doing little minimal movements, you could tell if they were good or not. And there wasn't a lot of good players in Mortal Kombat 2 at the start, whereas UMK3 was only decent players because MK3 sucked so bad no one played it.
Right.
That's the only reason why I played Nightwolf. So in Mortal Kombat 3, the only reason why I played Nightwolf is I didn't like anyone in the Mortal Kombat 3 roster. No one. I thought they were all bad. I didn't like any character. I played Cabal because that was the only one that I thought was a decent character because he's top tier. But in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, I just wanted to play someone that no one played that I thought had potential. And I literally picked him because I thought his artwork from the EGM magazine was really cool, even though the character design in the game looks really stupid.
Oh man, I know this
I
is
didn't have a choice. My
yeah,
character
so-
was gone.
and
Right.
So and you gotta tell the story since we're talking about Mortal Kombat.
Mhm.
The Mortal Kombat 4 truck.
Oh, you want to talk about the Mortal Kombat 4 promotional truck?
Oh yeah.
So
Oh,
I don't
I
even
heard that
know.
story.
I don't even know how they even got it there. But Putt Putt, because again, it was so renowned for being a top arcade in our area. Somehow they pulled strings and got the Mortal Kombat tour bus to show up at Putt Putt with a promotional version of Mortal Kombat 4 that we went there and played. It was 2 cabinets. It was so commercialized. It was crazy. They had cameras and everything there because I'm guessing they took footage of it when you went in there to show people playing it. And where the Daytona machines were that I was telling you guys about before, they were gone. And out front, they had 2 big rigs, 2 big Mack trucks. They had big Mortal Kombat 4 signs on it because they wanted people to come in and play. And, showing the MK tour for this new game that was supposed to be so great. And everyone knew that we were coming. By we, it was me and Sandro. They knew we were going to come and they knew that they wanted to see us play this game. And since it was 2 cabinets, me and him would get in each line. So the way they had it set up was winner didn't stay. It was you played and you went back around into the line again, and you played and you went into the back around again. And they had the 2 arcade machines set up. And then I think up top they had TV screens on top of that as well, so the crowd could see what was happening. And it was for Mortal Kombat 4, and we would get in this line and we would inch our way up and play. And I want to say only 3 or 4 people were playable. I don't think the entire cast was playable because at this point they didn't want to give away the roster. I think it was just the ninjas. And was Sonya in that game? I think Sonya was in that game,
Sonya
right?
was in that game.
Yeah, Sonya
Yep,
was in the
she was one of the players.
Yeah, she was one of the playable characters. So Sandro was all happy. And then, of course, I was playing Scorpion because that was the other character that I really liked. And we had gone up there to play it, and I played it. And the first thing I did was run up and throw somebody. And in that game, when you throw somebody, you literally break their limb and they stand there like this. But in that version of the game, you couldn't get out of it. So you could just keep running up, throwing somebody. You couldn't get out of it. And I remember after I won my first game, and I went right over to Ed Boon, and I'm like, "Your game is trash." And he was like, "Well, I respect your opinion." He's like, "You don't have to go back and play it." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm going back to play it, but it's trash." So we went back to the back of the line, and me and Sandro got in the same line, and we started to realize that if we went up together, we would just try moves, win around, lose around, and keep playing it instead of just playing literal kids that didn't know what they were doing. And we were playing this game, and I just remember every time we tried and found something new, we were like, "This is trash. This is so bad." And we played it I think it was 2 hours. They had it there before they were going to close up the promotional scene. And we played it the entire 2 hours. And I just remember going back over to Ed Boon, and I'm like, is this the final product? And he was like, no, this is just a work in progress. And I was like, thank God. This game is awful. And we went from there to go see Spawn.
On.
I mean, that was our day. Was go play Mortal Kombat 4. We went and had dinner, and then go see Spawn.
Your day was wrong.
That was one of the worst days of my life. It was awful. Awful.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Only reason why I remember that version of Mortal Kombat 4. I think we were training or we were doing workouts or something. But apparently that same tour bus came to Camp Lejeune also.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that. But for some reason, I think they thought they were doing us a favor, the military a favor. They left one of the beta games there.
Oh,
that
wow.
arcade.
Wow.
They left that beta game, but they also sent an early version of the final game layer to base. So both games were side by side. So we could see how much this game has progressed by watching both versions, and they both suck. It was like, wow.
That game was so bad, man. I don't know what the meta was in that game. After playing that demo version of it, I never touched the game again. And then right after that was War Gods.
Oh, yep.
God.
We had that
And-
game there too.
That game was so bad.
That game was,
That was at
We had
Putt
that-
Putt. Putt Putt
bad.
was the only place that had it other than I think Funscape.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And
Yeah.
we went to Putt Putt, and you knew that game was bad when literally no one was playing it. Like at Putt Putt, there was a
No,
crowd around every game.
Lynnhaven had it.
Did Lynnhaven have it? Okay, I don't even
Yeah.
remember that. But at Putt Putt, every game had a crowd from Daytona to KOF to, I mean, just insert whatever game they had there. Virtua Fighter 1 carried a crowd, okay? Virtua Fighter 1 carried a crowd. Tekken 1 carried a crowd. Tekken 2 carried a crowd, which I like Tekken 2. But anyway, those games carried crowds. This game, no one played it. There's no way that game made its money back. The game was awful. And Mortal Kombat 4 was the same way. I'm not positive. I think Funscape had Mortal Kombat 4
No, it did
And-
because that was the first
Yes,
time I
it did.
played it.
Yeah.
and
They
maybe
had,
Putt
they
Putt.
had all the Mortal Kombats, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. And I
Yeah, they
think
did.
Putt Putt might have had it, but I never played it after that day. I never went back and played it. The game was so bad. It came out on console. I played it a little bit, and I was like, this game is awful. This game is awful. And I never played it. It was like oh my God, think about it. Like Tekken 4 was awful. Mortal Kombat 4 was awful. And then you got Street Fighter 4, in my opinion, was awful.
yeah, I didn't like Street Fighter
Yeah.
4.
It was popular because I think it was the only thing that came out at the, you know what I'm saying, after a while.
It was.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did not like
yeah.
4. It was
It was
weird,
towards
man.
towards the end of 4, when they did the I think it was the arcade edition or whatever it was, that version of it was pretty balanced. If you go back and look at the final tournament they had for that, I think everybody in the top 8 was a different player, so that's important. Whereas if you go look at Mortal Kombat 2 and you look at the top 8, it's gonna be Melina and Jax in the top 8. It just is. That's it. UMK3
Yeah, we had that with,
might have a little variety. It would still be a Cabal. It would still be a Reptile,
Human Smoke.
Human Smoke, Kung Lao. Those would all probably be like the top ones, just not in that order specifically. But yeah, Street Fighter 4, the last version of that, was supposedly pretty balanced. I mean, maybe it was, but I still didn't enjoy the game.
The funny about MK4, like every arcade I bounced to, if there was one there, nobody played it. Like I was the only machine that had working buttons and sticks. Nobody played it. Like that
That's
game was
factual
brand
information.
new. Yeah, that game will always look brand new. Nobody
Tekken
touched
4,
it.
I think, was the same way though. Tekken 4, even though it had a
Yes,
following, it was dead. Like,
Yeah, it was a hard. I think people played it just because it was a Tekken. But people, if you had that or Tag 1, people play Tag 1. They wouldn't play
Yeah.
4.
yeah, still to this day, I would play Tag 1.
'Cause
Yeah.
who really felt like playing Jin versus Jin all the time? If you
Nah,
really
you
wanted to
didn't.
win, like,
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mind that much, but
yeah, okay.
I play Jin. I mean, I can't complain about that. But
Yeah. But yeah, that game 4 was, oh God, 4 was so bad. Like, I don't know how they even got away with that. Like, who thought that was a good game to even come out?
Oh,
well, I
I'm the
mean, to be
best
fair
Nintendo.
though, I mean, if you really look at it, that was their first transition, and it's what I think the age was where they were starting to transition into like really heavy 3D stuff though. So
Yeah,
I kind of give a lot of games a break because that era was that weird transition phase where most stuff is going to be really rough looking and like jacked up because we don't know how that kind of system works. Because when they came out with Deadly Alliance, it was busted, but it was leagues better than 4. I mean, even looked really good. Like story was great.
My thing is this: like Mortal Kombat always tries to innovate, right? If you look at all their games, they don't. No game is the same, even though it's the same gameplay ish. They always try to innovate. My thing is this: there is no one And I mean no one at that facility that would have played Mortal Kombat 4 and thought it was releasable.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
mean,
the game
I
was
don't care who you are. Like, the game doesn't look good. It didn't look good then. At that point in time when Mortal Kombat 4 came out, I'm pretty sure Tekken 2 was already out.
And Tekken 2 looked way better.
I'm pretty sure it was already out. Don't quote
It
me on this.
was.
I need to look on dates. But I'm pretty
It
sure
kind of looked like Lego blocks.
I'm pretty sure Tekken 2 was out. If anything, Virtua Fighter 2 was out. And Virtua Fighter 2 was an amazing looking game. Actually, I'm positive Virtua Fighter 2 was out because Virtua Fighter 2 came out on Sega Genesis.
Yep.
See, MK4 was released in 97.
Yeah, 1997, right? Tekken 2 might be 90. It's not 98. Tekken 2 is like 96,
95.
95. And that game looks infinitely better than Mortal Kombat 4.
Tekken 3 was out in 97.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I'm saying, so there's no way they had that product out and thought it was good. NBA Jam looked better than Mortal Kombat 4, and it was the same company.
Pitfire looked better now. That was
All right,
what-
now.
I'm just joking.
That's
Pit,
being mean.
hey, Pitfire was so bad it was great.
I loved Pit Fighter, man.
Yeah,
The
I
sound-
like Pit Fighter.
Every time you push the button, all the punches sounded the same. That
Yep.
game was so bad. It was great.
What
What was your favorite beat 'em up? Real quick. What was your favorite beat? We can actually, you know what? Next week, here's what we're gonna do next week if all four of you are available. Tell me your favorite beat 'em ups, and we're gonna go 5 to 1. There's plenty. So give me your top 5, and then we'll all go over it here next
Are you
week. That's what we'll talk
including-
about.
Are they just beat 'em ups, or are you including side scrolling shooters too? Because they're essentially like the same thing. Really. Or is that too broad?
Well, here's most side scroller shooters weren't multiplayer. Most of them were single player. So I would say it has to be multiplayer. 2 people on the screen at once.
At the minimum.
At the minimum. At the minimum.
Let's keep it at beat 'em ups.
At beat 'em ups? Okay. That's fine.
And we can talk about that here. We'll start with that, and then whatever else comes to our flavor, because we've definitely run over. Real quick, I did want to touch on this topic just to get your guys' feel on it, and then that's where we're going to end tonight's episode. Epic Games actually came out and released a statement saying that their players, their content creators that have custom codes to custom matches, which is anyone with a support a creator code, they would have it to where their subs in their channel would, if they were paid subs, could get into custom matches. So you would have 100 people that could go into a battle royale, right? So they would say, if you're a sub to me, like a sub to the Cyberverse, you could get into that match. And they essentially said that that's against terms of service, because you're essentially putting a paywall into playing the game, in a game that they have that's free to play. So essentially you're making money off of their content.
Interesting.
So do you guys think that that's fair? Because if it is, and it's something that they can enforce over on Twitch, this could hurt money matches in the FGC if they get wind of this and want to do the same.
I don't know. I think a lot of it's really complex. There's a lot of rules and stuff that people come out with now, but I think I personally think it's kind of dumb that they would go after something like that, because it's like, dude, you got so much money already, and like a little whatever is not going to make much of a difference. And then the fact that it's actually in the game, you can kind of do that, so it's not really like some scheme that we came up with. It was just kind of like, oh, cool, we can do this. Like,
Yeah,
I
so
don't know, man.
essentially what streamers do is they don't want to play with all their followers, because if they play with their followers, anybody could follow and get into a game with them. So they want to actually give back to the community that actually pays for their content in terms of support by saying, okay, you have access to playing with me now. But the company Epic is saying you're using that in a way to force people to pay for a game that they have for free. In turn, you're making money off of our product, because they're not paying to play Street Fighter. They're paying to play Fortnite. So
I don't know, because you could do that with anything. I could be like, yo, the only way I'm hanging out with you today is you pay me $2. Like,
Which is why I said
And-
that's now in their terms of
It's like a-
service. Do you think other game companies are going to adopt that same policy? Because if they do, then that means if you play Street Fighter and you want to do a money match online, and they're paying to play you, could they in turn shut you down?
Probably.
I say the possibility is definitely there, but it'll all depend on what kind of people they have in their office that actually pay attention to those type of things. Because that's more of a me and you, like younger generation, actually paying attention to, hey, this is a legitimate possibility, as opposed to the ones who are in power right now are like, haha, they're using video games and music on streaming sites to make money. So it's like, and I mean, they're just now catching on to that, thinking that we're making like millions of dollars by playing one song on
you gave me
freaking
gas money
Twitch.
for 2 days.
Yeah. So eh, there is potential. I admit there is potential for something like that to happen, but I don't think that. I think that it's one of those situations that might work itself out before it gets to a point where it's that serious.
That's what I'm hoping for too. I think the main reason why they did it, I understand the paywall. Like a lot of the content creators that are huge content creators that still play Fortnite, like their community is not what's keeping the game alive. So I don't see why it really matters in the first place. But more importantly, I think it's more or less because a lot of the people might be underage and they're essentially spending money to play the game. But I don't know. It's in their terms of service saying if you have a supporter creator code, you can't make money. That I guess they also don't get a cut off the game because they get a cut of the supporter creator money. There's probably something. There's probably something in your supporter creator contract when you sign with them to have a code that states that you can't do that. And if it didn't before, it does now. I don't know if any video game company would adopt this. But I don't know of any content creators that only play with their subs if they're subs. So I don't know if maybe they do. If they do, I
mean,
don't really.
I have seen some channels that they only open up their lobbies or whatever
To subs,
for,
yeah, and they're
like,
essentially saying that's
sub-only games and stuff like that.
and they're saying that's a paywall. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I could see their argument, but I also feel that it's something
A
that,
lot of red
like,
tape.
yeah, like
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how easily that they could pursue that.
Well, I don't think they'll pursue it legally. I think what happens is they ban your account. So essentially, if I was to do it with my subs, they'll just ban my account on Fortnite.
Right.
So like, I don't think they're seeking restitution. I think they're saying you're breaking terms of service. You can no longer play our game.
Right.
And I think that's much easier to control.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's true. And then you don't really face the same backlash because it's like, oh well, we had it in the terms of service. You obviously violated that. So yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know if we'll see other companies try to adopt this if Epic is successful in banning accounts.
See,
I
the
mean, if
thing
they
is
make
with-
it. Well, I was gonna say if they make a big enough thing about it, I could see the potential for.
I could see them doing it if it got abused, and I can understand why they're doing it. Like you said, there's kids who are easily influenced, and it could be a way to manipulate to get more subscribers. At the same time, if there's a creator who wants to give back to his community and say, "Hey, I can't play with everybody, but if I can play with these people, you might not be on my skill level. So this is a way we could play together, and you subscribe to me for like a year. Least I could do is play a game with you.
Mhm.
I don't see something wrong. I think there's a way to monitor it. But as for the fighting games go, they can't. I don't see them doing it. For one, Japan doesn't work that way because most of the big games are Japanese,
Yeah.
and I don't think Ed Boon and
Like
them
I
would
said-
force it for Mortal Kombat. But also, you pay for those games.
Yeah.
If fighting games aren't free, you usually pay full price for those. That'd be kind of
True.
hard to throw a stir for service for them because you paid for it. You pay $60. So it's like,
And 9
all right,
times out of 10, they don't care after you spend that money. They don't give a damn anymore.
Because they already have your money.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't see it happening. Now I can see Nintendo pulling some crap like this for some
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
It's not
100%,
yeah.
100%.
I heard they've been like
100%.
messing with the Smash community or something too.
Oh yeah, 100%. The Nintendo, they're so out of touch. It's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're gonna win the console war, but unfortunately, they're clueless.
Yeah. But see, that's what I'm saying. Is like as far as it transitioning to fighting games, it just depends on the company, you know?
True.
Because like
I
look
can
how
see that.
long it's taken before Nintendo like even really decided to say anything.
Yeah.
And it's just because people got vocal about them not supporting the game. So they're like, "Oh, you want support for the game? Well, nobody can watch your game." I was like, "Have that. We're
Yeah.
still gonna make money because you're still gonna
Right.
buy all our products."
Yep. Yep.
So,
All right, guys. I guess that's where we're going to wrap it up now. Of course, like I said, we went over by quite a bit, but that's okay. As long as it's good, healthy conversation, there's no reason not to. So, John, what are you doing this week until next time? And is there any place people can hit you up?
I'll be doing the same thing I usually do, working this week. You can always check me out on Twitter, just retweeting memes and other things at Neoshan Wu. You can check out my Instagram. That's at John Quest, JONQWEST. I post pictures of my cars and life and everything in general. And
Roger that.
then you can also check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/neoshanwu_.
Roger that. Gamer, what do you got going on this week?
This week, not much, but I'm looking into starting to get my search stuff together. So maybe by the end of the month, I'll probably be real busy trying to get my Security Plus and all that stuff. But
Nice.
for right now, I'm pretty much free. I don't have social media. I'm not social media savvy like that. I don't have like Instagram or Twitter or nothing like that.
He's
But
like, bitch,
I am
I'm a
around.
ghost.
Yeah, exactly. But if
That's
you
cool.
tune into the Cyberverse, you'll see me lurking. So.
Gamer does very frequently hang out in the chat as well as play games with us. So if you guys do like Gamer X's, also soothing voice is what I'm told. You know where to find him. Vegeta, what do you got going on this week?
And I'm beyond the usual, just doing my Apex and Tech and stuff. But I like Gamer. I just kind of lurk around. I got some social media stuff, but it's mostly like for friends and all that.
I got you.
Maybe in the future, but not right now.
Not right now. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, as these two are superstar content creators waiting to happen. They need you to tell them how bad you want to see more of them. So definitely show your love. Everyone else, stay defaulty. We've had a blast. We'll be back next Tuesday. We're going to do the top 5 beat 'em ups in the arcade era. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have there was a lot of beat 'em ups, but I think a lot of our lists are going to be very close and similar
because
because
a lot of
there's a lot of standouts. There's a lot of them that are pretty obvious, but there's going to be a few curveballs. I guarantee you Gamer has a curveball. John might have a curveball. I might have a curveball.
Well, I know I
Now,
got.
are we gonna?
Oh, I
Are we
know I
also
got
gonna
one.
include console beat 'em ups?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
This is arcade only.
Arcade only. Okay.
Arcade only.
Gotcha.
So, and I got some beat 'em ups in mind. Some of them might teeter on not being a beat 'em up, but we'll see. That'll be an opinion that you guys can share when we're doing that. But we'll see you guys next Tuesday around 9 p.m. If you are watching this on YouTube and you want to interact with us live, come next Tuesday here at twitch.tv/cyberninja with an S. I do read the chat. If it's something relative to our topic, we will mention it. Otherwise, I am chatting in the chat. You just don't get to see that live on YouTube. Hit me up in the comments on YouTube as well. I'll reply there. And this week I have coming up Thursday. Is it there? Oh, it's not Thursday. The Weekly Geekly might be changing this week to Sunday because this week is WandaVision. What? Yeah, so WandaVision is Friday, right. And we're going to be reviewing WandaVision, and we don't want to do it a week later. So if you guys want to check me out there at Eric's Reloaded on YouTube, I believe that's on Sunday, guys. Wow, that's a completely different layout for me. So
maybe some Phasmo in the future.
Definitely. Oh my God. So real quick, they just updated Phasmo. Now the ghosts can open doors during hunts, and they can open doors you're hiding behind. So if you go hide in a closet, they can open it.
Oh, hell.
Also, the open mic is now really open mic, and they can hear you. So if you
It wasn't
talk,
before.
no, people thought it
Yeah, I
was.
thought that was.
Oh.
That's
thought
why
it
like
was
the
too.
ghost would be chasing somebody and we're like, hey, you know, come over here. No, and the ghost wouldn't. Now they follow your voice. They go to the last place they remember where you were. And if you go behind a door and break line of sight, they in their wandering phase can open that door and get you, as well as in a locker. So you have to physically hold the door shut.
Oh
So
my God.
Oh,
the game has changed, and it's going to be interesting. And we will be playing that this week. We're going to play Phasmo. We're going to play 7 Days to Die. I will probably play Fortnite till I get to level 100, and then I'm done with that game probably forever. So it is what it is. So Sunday, check me out on the Weekly Geekly. This week, probably Thursday and Friday, we'll be streaming here at Twitch. So stay defaulty, guys. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.